Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining today's Orlando.NET User Group Meetup. Today is June 9th, 2022, and we have Facundo and Daniel, and we will be doing an online workshop today. Before that, a little bit about this whole event. So today's meeting, it will be recorded and it will be uploaded to a YouTube link, which I'll present shortly. If you do not consent to the recording, please feel free to hang up and just view the recording later. So just a few reminders, hot mics are always a little uncomfortable, so try to stay on mute. Since this is a workshop, we'll go loose on the camera angle because people are going to be going back and forth. So always feel free to ask questions either on the channel or unmute and ask the question. There's also the hands up feature, so you could use that if you don't feel like interrupting. Speaking of the recording, we will be uploading our recording to the YouTube channel. How do you get to the YouTube channel? It's onetug.net/YouTube. So that will redirect to our YouTube channel. If you have missed our past meetups, all of them have been recorded and uploaded. Upcoming meetings, we have an in-person meeting coming up after nearly 2.5 years. And this one will be at Orlando downtown in the old Power DMS office. Now it's called NeoGov. And it will be at 6 p.m. on June 23rd, 2022. The presenter or the speaker will be Chris Ayers, and he will be talking about .NET configuration in depth. At this point, I'll take a minute to see if anyone has any community announcements or anything of that sort. If nothing, then I can just move on to the next slide. Going thrice, going twice, once, gone, right? We're still looking for sponsors, especially for the in-person event. So if you know of any company that is interested, please let us know, because in-person event usually, we feed our attendees and that requires some cash. Today's speakers are Daniel and Facundo. Daniel is a DevOps engineer at BoxBoat. He used to be a Linux sysadmin and full stack developer. He uses that experience to help people and companies adopt DevOps on Azure. And Facundo, I'm not sure if he has joined yet, is a solutions architect at BoxBoat, who has spoken at this meetup previously. And he used to be a .NET developer, but he is also helping people with DevOps on Azure. So with that, I am going to stop sharing and hand it over to Daniel.
Okay. Yeah. So Facundo probably not join us actually, because he was scheduled to travel today and his flight got pushed back. So that's how it goes sometimes. Let's see here. All right. Can everyone see my screen there? All right. So we're going to talk a little bit about GitHub Codespaces and Azure Container Apps, because that's a pretty streamlined way to introduce you to those things if you've never touched them before. We'll end up doing a small bit of GitHub Actions and Terraform. If you've seen both of those things, you'll feel right at home. If you've not, don't fret. It's pretty streamlined. Just kind of designed to let you dip your toes in, get your feet wet, and play with it. So yeah, that's me. I'm a big nerd. Lots of computers, lots of screens. That's Facundo. He's more of a professional, but he's not here. So, All right. We're going to talk about Codespaces, Azure Container Apps, then we'll do a lab. Cool. I'm sure you've all heard that phrase. Let's shave a yak. So we'll do that together. If you don't have one, create a GitHub.com account and put that GitHub username in the chat. We need to basically invite everybody who's going to participate to our Codespaces enabled GitHub organization. Don't worry about the Microsoft account thing. You won't actually need that. So drop your GitHub handle in the chat or go create a GitHub account and drop that in the chat. All right, so understanding Codespaces. I'm sure we've all seen, these types of statements made or very similar ones, right? We lost a whole day getting a QA engineer running on that project. I think that's pretty conservative, right? Sometimes you lose whole weeks trying to get engineers, especially new engineers. You get an engineer fresh out of college. It's like, man, sometimes those people are lost, and you're like 3 weeks and they finally ready to start contributing. Virtual desktop solution for contractors, very hard to use, right? VDIs and things like that. Always slow, unresponsive, limited, hard to troubleshoot. Maybe your laptops aren't the greatest, and running multiple Docker containers on those laptops gets tricky, and your laptop really slows down, things like that. And then just inconsistencies across local environments. One developer has a slightly different setup than another one, and so when they test code, it works, but when the other one tests it, it doesn't. Codespaces is designed to solve these kinds of problems. And hey, look, that looks familiar to probably a lot of you, right? That's just VS Code. Codespaces is really tied deeply to VS Code, just because that's a very extensible, well, calling it a text editor at this point is kind of underselling it, right? It's getting closer and closer to a full-fledged IDE every day. But it's a very extensible, open editor. And so it's kind of a match made in heaven. VS Code supports the underlying technologies of Codespaces, which are dev containers and remote connections. And so that's why they're paired together here. With Codespaces, you get a world-class dev environment in the cloud. You get VS Code exactly as you're familiar with it. You can add extensions, configure it ahead of time. You can even use the VS Code that you have on your machine or one right in your browser. Your development environment is pre-configured, so you can have one of your rockstar devs or yourself sit there and figure out exactly the perfect dev environment that you need, and then you publish it, and now everybody's using it. You get automatic Git config and GitHub login. They're automatically linked, so you hit the ground running with the Codespaces when you're using Codespaces, right? As soon as you get that VS Code instance up, you are ready to go and start using Git, start using all the tools that are configured. You don't have to sign in for a lot of them. All your dot files, everything that you're used to having in your development environment can be brought with you. And then it's got scalable compute options. When you start a Codespaces instance, and you'll see this, you actually have the option of choosing, like, how much CPU and RAM you need, how much disk space you need. Now, you can also define, like a reasonable floor for your applications, and I've done that with this lab. So if you don't configure it, right, by default, it's going to run your Codespaces will be a four CPUs and 8 gigabytes of RAM and 32 gigabytes of disk, right? And that's plenty enough horsepower for what we're going to end up doing. So that's basically Codespaces. And then an intro to Azure Container Apps. If you've previously used like something like Azure application services, right? App services. Container apps are kind of they're the next generation of that way of working, where you don't have to worry about infrastructure. You just make code and you deploy it. Where container apps differ is these are designed to make use of container technologies, meaning, we're talking .NET Core now instead of .NET Framework. What that means is these things are portable. You can deploy it here. You can deploy it to Codespaces, or you can deploy it to a container app, kind of as a testing ground, as a dev environment. You can use it as a production environment because of different advantages that you get here. Like, it's Kubernetes on the back end, but you don't have to worry about upgrades. You don't have to worry about patches. You don't have to worry about installing, upgrading, ingress controllers, service meshes, and other networking things. All of those things, if you are a company or just a person, and this is all kind of new to you, maybe you want to focus first on getting the software right, getting your applications right, and you don't want to have to worry about getting Kubernetes right, at least out of the gate. Container apps are perfect for that. It's a great way to explore containerized workflows in the cloud. One of the great things that they come with, right, is a couple of things. CADA, which is event-driven autoscaling. If you're familiar with things like Azure's Event Hub or Kafka, things like CADA allow you to, dynamically have your application dynamically respond to events in other parts of your infrastructure, right? So you can automatically scale up the number of containers that you're running if your message queues are growing and not shrinking. That's what CADA provides. There's Dapper, which is a distributed application. It's a distributed application runtime, right? Dapper helps you basically make cloud-enabled APIs that are secure and fast and performant faster. You don't have to worry so much about all the little details. You can just focus on, hey, this is my application. This is what it needs to do. And then you get secrets management, right? Which is, something that's going to please every security department. So if you're a developer, last thing you want to do is have to go and justify everything to security every time you want to do everything. You just want to get to work. This allows you to do that. And then you can deploy microservices quickly. This is an example, AZCLI command that would take a container that you have in a container registry and you already built and deploy it. This is all you really need. And when we get to the lab and you check out our repository, there's an example in there. It's deploy.sh. It is a script that will basically deploy to Azure. It's everything you need to deploy what we're going to do via Terraform in Azure, just through Azure CLI. That's just kind of there as an example. Like I said, we're gonna use GitHub Actions and Terraform to automate this stuff, so you kind of get exposure to more stuff and see more cool parts about GitHub. But yeah, there's not much to it, right? You make a container and you deploy it. So it's lab time. Let's see. Are there any questions before we get to getting everybody into our GitHub organization? I suppose a lot of the questions will come when we get to actually doing the lab, and maybe not. Maybe it's a well-designed lab.
I was about to say a lot, but you're probably going to answer them all.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
I'm interested to get into the lab and see where we go. I think following along will answer most of them.
Yeah, awesome.
Hey,
yeah.
Quick question. So I've done a little bit of work with Gitpod, and I was just going to ask you, do you have any familiarity with Gitpod? And if so, what are some of the differences with that Gitpod and GitHub Codespaces?
Gitpod, you said?
Yeah, Gitpod.io.
I don't actually.
It's a very similar concept to GitHub Codespaces.
Yeah. Do you know, does Gitpod, is it using, are you familiar with VS Code's dev containers?
I a little bit, not enough to, I guess.
Yeah. Well, that's like the found. I would, without looking at Gitpod, I would assume that I'm just making an educated guess that it could be easily built on top of that dev container functionality, because that's what Codespaces is.
Right. Okay.
With the lab that we're going to do, you can actually take, on your own without, if you have Docker installed on your machine, you can actually just use VS Code and say, run the dev container, and then you will have some of that functionality already. You'll still be running that same image. It's just running on your own hardware instead of in the cloud.
Gotcha.
But yeah, Gitpod, I'll definitely check that out.
Awesome. Thank you, Daniel.
Yep. Give me 1 second. I need to get that list and get my teammate here access so that we can start adding everybody.
Hey, this is a reminder for everyone. If you have not shared your GitHub handle, please do so immediately so we can get you going.
Also, I don't know if you have an answer to this, but I'm probably going to try and follow along in Writer. Should I actually open up Visual Studio?
You don't.
Should...
not Visual Studio. VS Code
or Visual Studio Code. I'm sorry.
Yeah. You don't actually even need to, if you want to. Basically, when we do the lab, when you start a Codespaces container, it's going to pop open a new tab and it's going to say, hey, do you want to run this in the browser, or do you want to run this in your VS Code?
Cool.
It'll open it up for you if you choose that.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yep. And yeah, just give us a couple minutes here as we add people. You should be getting, basically, once we add you to our organization, you'll be getting emails that are the default email of your GitHub account. And you'll need to go check that email and confirm, and then you'll be in our BoxBoat Codespaces organization. Yeah, I'm sorry. There's no better way to actually do this than like get your IDs and then do a bunch of manual stuff. So
that doesn't seem right for GitHub.
You guys should automate it, yeah.
Yeah.
I confirmed if you need that.
If you've confirmed when you're in GitHub, you should see our BoxBoat Codespaces organization.
Yep.
Okay. Give me 1 second. I'm going to throw a link to our lab to the chat. And I see some people still joining. If you've joined and you want to participate in the lab, please give us your GitHub username so that we can add you to our organization. So most of you should probably have gotten invites already. I'll wait till we get at least, kind of confirmation from a good amount of people that we're good. I don't want to leave anybody behind. Okay, is there anybody who is not gotten an invitation and is not in GitHub at BoxBoat Codespaces? All right. Sounds like, let me share my screen again. Okay. So the, let's see, we have a repo there. Let me show you this tab. Right, these instructions. This is the lab we're going to follow. I think it's fairly well written, so I mean, feel free to go at your own pace if you want. I'm going to do it with you. The link there at the top should take you here. All right, let me get rid of this so I can follow it. All right, so very first thing we want to do, right, is this is a template. So we want to say use this template because we got to make our own repos. And select an owner. You have to select BoxBoat Codespaces because Codespaces is a feature that's only on, particular organizations. And then, name your repository with like your username and then something so that it's just obvious. Got to make it public, and that's so some of our template features will work, and that's just because of the basically the level of billing that we've got on this organization. But so make it public, and that will allow us to help you as well if we need to. Unique name with your username, public. That's it. There's only one branch.
I am not seeing the ability to create, like it's disabled, the create repo from template.
It's disabled.
Yes.
Is that disabled for everybody?
Hold on. No, my bad.
No, not for me.
No,
Okay.
I got the template made. Okay.
Okay.
I had not selected the proper owner. Sorry. You said it.
Oh. Okay. This next step takes a little bit because we got to spin up stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and do it. If you're not there, you can catch up here anyway. So right at the top, we have a repo. First thing we want to do, we click that code button. You'll see what's different from a normal place in GitHub is now we have 2 tabs. Click the Codespaces one. Here's where you could, configure and create Codespace. Believe me, the 4-core 8GB RAM is plenty. So I'm just going to click create Codespace on main. And here's that pop-up, right? And it's going to say, do you want to open it in VS Code desktop? I don't in this particular case, just because sharing is easier. But if you have VS Code, feel free to do that. It really is smooth in the browser too, though.
I actually do not see create code spaces when I click on code. I'm seeing the repo the same as yours where it says generated from.
Okay.
And when I click on code, I see clone,
Just this?
SSH, GitHub CLI, no code spaces tab. It's basically
Okay.
everything else.
Anyone else with that same issue?
Same issue here.
Okay. Let's go look at, let me look at our, let me look at permissions here.
Hey Daniel, hopefully it's not too
Yes.
loud, but under organization settings, code spaces, you have to let everyone use code
everyone.
spaces, otherwise it's select people. Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Allow for all members and outside collaborators.
Cool. Let me know when you've done that. I'll refresh and check it.
I have done that now, so see if that shows up for you.
Hey, Daniel, there's another user in the chat with the GitHub handle.
Okay.
I'm also giving it the old Control F5, and I'm still not seeing a Codespaces tab when I click on code. But it may just be taking a minute.
And same here for me too.
Taking a look here. We have all members and outside collaborators.
Part of me wonders if I have to generate it again.
If it helps,
That
I've
could-
just joined. Sorry.
That could be a possibility.
I'm still refreshing and not seeing it, just in case you did anything else that should.
I just
Start.
joined and I can see it, and I'm able to start up a Codespaces straight away. But I just literally
can?
joined in right now. Yeah.
Okay.
Let me try deleting this and regenerating it.
Yeah. Sorry about that. If you got to do that.
Refresh one more time. Yeah, let me just try and delete this and regenerate it.
I generated a new one. I still did not get it.
Huh. Let's see. I see everybody has the same. Who's the user where it did work? You just joined?
Carl.
Yeah, me, Carl.
And I regenerated it as well, and no dice.
Huh.
Which organization did you create them as public repos or private?
Public.
Okay.
It's
Public
saying
from-
public and generated from BoxBoat-Codespaces/Codespaces-Workshop, if that's the right one.
Yeah, we had the correct settings to enable people because everyone here is just a regular member. So that should be.
Yeah, I've got the clone tab when I click on code, just nothing other than HTTPS, SSH, and GitHub CLI.
Check my email, make sure I didn't get any random emails asking me to confirm things or anything like that. But
I'll do that too.
yeah, I don't see anything. So do we just have one person that's so far able to?
I think two. I think someone in chat said they also had it working.
All right. The only thing I can think of at this point would be sign out, sign back in.
I'll try it.
Okay, I'll give it a try.
For those of you who have it working, I only see 4, and in my internet's that's not refreshing. I see 4 Codespaces Workshop repos created within the last 15 minutes. There's one for you, Daniel, Nicola, XH, and then I believe Desi Null, which I think is yours, David.
Oh, correct. Yeah.
No, does you know it's me?
Oh, sorry, sorry.
Mine should be PockyBum522.
So I only see the 4 created. Are you those who are having issues? Are you certain you've created them in the BoxBoat Codespaces?
I clicked use this template. Let's see, maybe that might be it.
Yeah, let me go back to it. Let me go back to it and see if you have the same kind of thing on your screen where it says select an owner.
That may be it. One sec. Let me go back to BoxBoat. I believe that's it. One second.
When we, in the create the owner step, do we need to select our own repository, our own organization, or do we select BoxBoat Codespaces as the organization?
You select BoxBoat Codespaces.
I think that was my issue. It's generating now.
Yeah, I was selecting the template instead of using.
Yep, that was it. You are correct. Sorry about that.
That's all right. Let's go. Okay. So if you, let's see, I'm going to just kind of refresh and see if we've got new ones popping up here. All right, I'm seeing more. I see 6 of you so far.
I think mine appears to be working.
Okay. Well, for those of you who already have one, and like I said, we got instructions there. It's already kind of, whoa, that's hideous. It's terminal font. This is the first time that I've actually used this on this machine because I needed a Windows machine for to make Microsoft Teams let me present. But
has anyone tried using Codespaces and VS Code Desktop? Will that work? There's a button there.
yes, it does work.
Yeah.
And actually, I was just considering doing it, but I think that's going to be painful because they seem to have removed the ability to share like a monitor in Teams. I don't have that option anymore. Actually, let me see if I can. Unsharing and then sharing again. Yeah, I can only share just a monitor. All right, 1 second. Let's go. There we go. That worked. I remembered something. Okay. Back to my lab. All right.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. It added even my team and all my extensions.
Yeah. Yeah, so it does use your, your VS Code stuff that you've already got pre-configured, so it looks like yours. I like to have my terminal slide out from the side, so that's why it looks like that here. So first thing we want to do, right? And you're already in your repo and everything. First thing we want to do is we want to make a new branch. So let's see. I'm gonna do git checkout B dev. Uh-oh. Oh, yeah. B, not V. Okay. So now we're in a dev branch. This is .NET. You guys are all probably at least somewhat familiar with .NET since this is a .NET group. To make this not so painful, we're going to do .NET dev certs HTTPS trust. This is just allowing us to do SSL. All right, and then, hey, let's run our app. And actually, you know, tell it to run, not just type .NET. It's my first time using a computer.
Relax, you're doing fine.
Yeah. I'm typing on a laptop keyboard for like the first time.
That doesn't
in
help.
weeks.
Oh, that's the worst.
Yeah. I plugged in my mechanical keyboard and nothing, and I didn't have any way to figure it out. So, all right. So we got an application running. Got a URL there, right? That's no fun. First thing I'm going to do to test this is you get two things here. One says Swagger UI, the other one says application. We want the application URL because that's HTTPS, and we just configured that dev cert. So click this little open in browser. Get a little tab. Hey, there's Swagger. This is our app running. And if you're familiar with Swagger, right, you can click around, try some stuff. Hello world. You can try Dwight, and you see Dwight Schrute. It's just a bunch of goofy stuff like that, right? This is a stupid API for stupid people and stupid things. But you know, it serves its purpose. It's going to be quick to play with and things like that. So I've done that. Let me get my terminal back. I'm going to kill that. And so, all right, now let's say I want to make some changes. All right. Super easy. Oh my God, that's terrible again, but whatever. I'm going to make some changes in this ASCII folder. We got various ASCII. All of these are mapped, except this one, Blinky. That's a thing. So I want to make that do something. Our instructions say basically do that. Paste that code in there. And then I want to make the hello world something snarky. You know, I'm going to tell you to get bent. And I'm going to save that. Right? And then if I really want to test it out again, I can do .NET run again, and then we'll see our changes. Click the ports, click the browser. All right, so let's see. Is this still telling me hello? Nope, get bent. For all you Simpsons lovers, one of Bart's great phrases. And now we have Blinky. More Simpsons. Three-eyed fish. Right, okay. So, hey, cool. This lets us edit a .NET app, right? And we can run it like a .NET app. That may not be something new to you. What about a Docker container, right? Oh, you don't have Docker. Got to install it, right? Got to configure it, figure out how to do that. You don't here. You just literally have to have a Docker file, which we have. It's a very simple one. And then, so it's extremely simple. So we're kind of do the build in stages, but then we're gonna have a Docker image, and then we're gonna play with that. So we'll do .NET build C release. And we're going to publish it. To a folder called app. That's important unless you want to change the Docker file around. And then we're going to build it. And so that is just Docker build. Dot says my Docker file's right here in this folder. And then -t is a tag, and we're going to call it something. And I'm going to call this one my app. This is important because you're going to use this later. I guess it's not terribly important, but, you know, name it something consistent. It can be anything you want. And then Docker is going to build our image. Okay, and it has. If you want to see it.
Quick question, Daniel.
Yep.
Is this using just the Azure CLI or?
Right now it's not. We're just using a by
Bash.
default, I believe it's using Bash which is running inside the container, right? And this container, if we want to look at it, right? This is a Microsoft provided container. And it's defined here in this .dev container. And these are the things that, you know, this dev container this is a VS Code thing. So you can run this locally with VS Code. What Codespaces is giving you is one button click inside GitHub running on someone else's hardware.
Gotcha.
But let's see here. We have, okay, so dev container.json. This is kind of how you would configure various things here. But you know, host requirements and things like that, and .NET and Docker. But in the Docker file, here's the actual thing we're curious about. This is the image that you are developing on. It's from Microsoft, VS Code, dev containers, .NET. If you go out and search for this, Microsoft provides these out there on the Docker Hub, and they're just pre-built development containers that they want, you know, .NET developers using, and it gives you a whole bunch of tools, useful tools that you'd want. Does include Azure CLI, and you know you can configure things and add things like, you know, Terraform and additional things to these containers, so that everybody who uses them has those things.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yep. So, okay, we got our image, right? And you'll see a lot of other things in here. These are just kind of things that this image already has included in it. These are Microsoft things used to build the container itself. But we have an image called my app, right? So we've got that, and okay, now tell me how to run it, right? Docker run, and then we're going to do this P switch, which is publish. We're going to publish port. And for this one, we're going to publish port 80 inside the app, inside the container, to port 8080 on our machines. And that's important because, you know, if you're on Windows and other, I think you maybe even Mac, but if you're on Windows, you only can choose specific port ranges to forward by default. So choose 8080 here. And then we give the name of the image by the tag. So it's my app. All right. And that looks familiar, right? That's still the .NET output, but it's a little different here. We do the same thing. Same stuff here. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Never mind. We got to add a port. So we add 8080. We have to do this manually because as of right now, it doesn't automatically detect that you're running it in Docker and know what port you published, but I'm sure in time that'll be included as well. So we're going to add 8080 and it automatically knows, hey, that's something. And here's a local address. Let's click that and open that in our window. And there we go. This is our app again. Same thing. Let's get retro. Remember when MTV was cool? I don't think anyone watches it anymore, but yeah. Okay, so we've kind of done, we've built something locally. We've built an image. We know we can modify it. We've got the tools all in our Codespaces container to modify it. How do we take it to the next level? How do we get this deployed to the cloud where we're really having fun, or get it deployed somewhere else and get it built somewhere else so that we can take it to the cloud? We're going to use GitHub Actions to do that. Because GitHub Actions, one, they have a great free tier and you can do a whole lot of stuff for free. And two, it's just, it's a really easy platform to use. And you'll kind of see why as we do this. First thing we want to do is we want to create an action to build and publish our image, right? So you're at your repo, click the Actions tab on the top. And this is part of the reason why we had to make these all public. You get these suggested GitHub Actions. These are starters, right? So you don't have to actually just write this from scratch. We have two down here, BoxBoat Codespaces. What we're interested in right now is the dotnet core container workflow. So we click continue. And look at that. There's already a whole bunch of stuff written in here. And that's on purpose. All we need to do is edit 2 lines. This will show you basically what you need to do a build. If you wanted to do a separate .NET build and then build the image separately. That's just how we're doing it for simplicity's sake. And this kind of gives you everything you need to do that. But so here I'm just going to go.
Which workflow did you choose?
Say that again.
Which workflow did you choose on GitHub Actions? I missed that step.
Oh, yeah. Let me cancel. Go back. This one. Let's see. Action. BoxBoat Codespaces, .NET Core Container Workflow.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Okay.
Interestingly, I don't have that action in mine. Even though
is your repo public?
I will check.
If you look at the top, there's a little bubble next to it. It should say public or private.
Ah, yes, no, it's private. I'll make it public.
Okay. You know how to do that, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. I'm going to go ahead and make my changes here, but I'll stay on this screen for a little bit here.
Yeah, got it. Cool.
Okay. So there's really only 2 changes you need to make. They are on line 34 and 45. Should be clear. Give your thing a name. I'm just calling it my app. Being consistent. And for those of you who are kind of sitting along waiting, or maybe you're looking at this, you're a little curious, this we have a couple of jobs here. We do the build, then we container, then we build an image. It's called container, but we're building an image. So we do the build of the .NET. we publish a build artifact. So that's our .NET build. And then we consume that artifact right here in the next stage. And we do a Docker build, and then we push it to the GitHub Container Registry, which is a lot like the Docker Container Registry, but it's local to GitHub, and it's tied to your repository, and you can authenticate it with it like this. You know, it just automatically uses your authentication that your repository provides, and you'll see when we do this what that gives us. So you make your 2 changes, right? And we're going to start a commit, and we're just going to leave it default, and we're going to commit directly to the main branch because we're being bold. And we have it there. So back to Codespaces. All right, let me close the Swagger. And we want our terminal again. Okay. So if you notice, we committed that directly to main, but we have been working in the dev branch. That's by design. So what we're going to do, because we want that workflow file, right? That action, when we create an action, it creates a file. We want that in our dev branch, because in order to trigger something when we push our code changes, we need that to already be there. So we're just going to do git pull origin main. And by doing this while we're in the dev branch, that's going to pull into those changes that we have from main into dev. And that's good because prior to adding that action, dev and main were the same. Status here. So we do have a modified change, right? Because we did make some changes to our program CS. We don't want to stage those yet. We got to do this in steps. Otherwise we won't trigger properly. So we've pulled the changes down. We want to push the changes that we just pulled from main up to GitHub. So git push origin dev. Keep hitting the wrong key there. All right. So now we've created a dev branch out there in GitHub. And do a quick refresh, sanity check. Hey, look, we have dev, and look, it's got a GitHub workflows folder with our .NET build push YAML that we created. So that's good. Got everything we need there. Back into Codespaces we go. So if you wanted to make more changes, feel free to make them. But if we do a git status again, we still have untracked, unstaged changes. Now I want to stage those, and I want to push those because I want to trigger a build. So I'm going to do git add here. That just adds everything. Commit. Give it a message. Linky. Okay, and then we're gonna push this. Git push origin dev. All right. So now what happened? So we pushed it to dev. Well, we go back here. Hey, GitHub's already saying you had recent pushes. Let's click on our actions tab. Hey, look at there. There's our commit message and something's running. We can click on this. And you see, we have 2 different stages. These were kind of the stages I was describing earlier, right? One, we're going to build our .NET build artifact, and then we containerize it. All right. But look at that. It did this, didn't do that. You click on this here, right? You can expand. These are the individual little steps that we have. And we're seeing everything. Build and publish steps. You can go back. So we only did the build, we didn't actually make the container because we have a gate on that says we'll make that container when we are committing to main. But we do have a build artifact. That's our .NET app, right? You could consume that and run that and everything. So how do we get that made, right? Simple. Pull request from dev into main. One file changed. See the changes that we've made. When I saved, I must have some auto formatting on, so it did a whole bunch of stuff. But there we go. All right. Create our pull request. And you see all checks have passed because it depends on the fact that we must have had a successful build. So at least you're not able to make a pull request with something that doesn't even build, right? If you're failing at the build, you should not be making pull requests. But we got that. We want to merge that pull request. We'll confirm. We're going to leave dev branch. We're not going to delete that. We're going to leave that around because we're going to use it still. All right. It's running again. Just a sanity check. It builds that artifact again. These are, these are cheap minutes. You don't care. It's not your hardware. But then it's going to consume this and it's going to build us a container. Hey, there's the container step. Let's see if we can follow it along. It's moving fast. Okay, look, it's done, right? So what do we have again? All right, we have an artifact, but now we have a container. Where is that, right? Where's that container? Let's click on our home page and click code. There's something new here. If you'd notice it, it's over here on packages. GitHub treats containers. They're all under the packages umbrella. And like if you have, you can have NuGet packages. And you can have NPM packages and things like that. But yeah, so here we go. Here's our package. It's a container. You click on it. They give you steps right on the top how to consume it. Okay. What we're going to want to do is this is going to be important. So we're going to want to I'm going to create a new tab because I want to keep this open because I'm going to need to copy this. We're going to want to copy this later in our next steps here. Because that's the address to our container. Let's make a new tab here real quick. Okay, so we're going to make another action, right? So click Actions, and because we already have one, we get this screen. Right up here, there's a new workflow button. Click that again. And now we're going to choose the other BoxBoat Codespaces workflow, which is the Terraform workflow. Okay. And we're going to do much like we did before, but we only actually have to make one change here. And that's just because, there's not that much interesting stuff to muck around and change. And if you've not done Terraform or GitHub Actions before, it's like we could spend all day explaining what's going on. Right here, this is kind of important. This lets us know, hey, where's the Terraform live so we can respond to when Terraform changes, right? Because this is a Terraform workflow. We don't need to do Terraform things when the code changes, only when the Terraform changes, right? So we do our path to Terraform here, which is just like this. It's in this folder, Terraform. That says, hey, anything in that folder that changes, you trigger. And so what's going on here, this is a feature of, this is how basically we're authenticating with Azure, which is where these are going to be deployed. These are required values, environment variables that are required for this Terraform provider. And these secrets are actually organizational secrets that the repositories are able to access. With GitHub, you can make repository secrets, and you'd use them in very much the same way, or you can make organizational secrets, which is how all of you will be able to access these values here. And so this is what will allow you to deploy things to Azure without actually, having an Azure account or being connected to the Azure subscription where these are going. And then, so this is basically going to do two things. We're going to do a Terraform plan, which is what it sounds like. It's a plan. It's just going to show us, hey, this is what I will build for you if you tell me to. And then there's an apply step where it says, okay, you told me to, so I'm going to build it. And that's really all we're doing here. So we're going to go ahead and commit it. We're going to commit it directly to main, just like before. Okay, so now we got two workflows in our .github workflows directory. Okay. Let's go back to Codespaces. Just like before, we want to get that workflow file into our dev branch. I'm going to do a git status real quick to show clean working tree. We got nothing going on. So I'm going to pull main again. If I can type correctly, I will. All right. Status again, still clean, but I do have that change now, so I'm going to push it. And that means now that we have a GitHub action out there waiting for us to make some changes and push Terraform code. And then when we push Terraform code, it will be triggered as long as it's in that Terraform folder. And what do you know? You know what? Let me fix this. I hate this text here. I don't want you to look at my screen anymore and have to see that. Oh yeah, I don't have Ubuntu Mono here. All right, better. That looks like code. Okay, so now it's time to edit our Terraform, right? Let's look inside our Terraform directory. What do we got here? Oh, we got 3 files. We got a backend, right? Backend. That's a special thing in Terraform. That just tells us how Terraform's going to track our changes and track our infrastructure. Terraform uses a state file, so to track the state of your infrastructure. It's very useful because you can use it to, keep things up to date, detect any changes that were made, and it's nice because the whole point of infrastructure as code is it really streamlines things. You can deploy things quickly. You can destroy things quickly. You can try different things 10 times in an hour. It's just very fast. So we got that. We don't have to worry about it. What we're interested in is these 2 files, but I guess actually we have main 2, right? This is just going to specify basic stuff about our providers. And these are basically plugins for Terraform that actually do the work. So Terraform doesn't know anything about Azure resources, but the Azure Resource Manager provider does. And this is an Azure API Resource Manager. So this is just where those are configured. And again, we don't have to touch that. But it's there for you as an example if you want to go back and look and play around and take a peek. Container app. That's what we're interested in because that's what we're deploying because we have a container now and it lives out in GitHub. Right? So we're going to make changes here that if you need to follow along in the guide, they're all listed, kind of specified out. But Again, same kind of syntax. We're going to look for this thing where it says username, resources, right? We're going to replace those everywhere. So we're making a resource group. Then we're making a log analytics workspace. This is a requirement for a container app. That's so you can have logs, which are valuable, especially in a testing environment. And we have to make a container app environment. And if you've not seen Terraform before, right, these are basically the baseline minimal kind of stuff you need to specify to get these resources. And Terraform has, really great documentation. If you're interested in looking for things like this, you just Google Azure RM and then whatever it is in Azure that you're trying to make. And as long as you're using Google, that's the first result always. But so we're doing a log analytics workspace, right? And that's going to live inside our resource group. We got a container app environment. That's also going to live inside there. We just have to give it a name. The real meat and potatoes here is this container app. Also, we only have to give it a name, but that's going to live inside our resource group. It's going to use that environment that we make. And then you can see here, we have a couple of things configured. There is an ingress, right? And a target port of 80. If you remember, well, 80 is just, HTTP. That's basic and standard. That's why we're using it. But if you remember when we did the Docker command and we published ports, we told it, hey, take port 80 inside the container and map it to port 8080 outside. So we're staying consistent. We want port 80 inside our container. That's where all traffic should go, because that's where our app is going to be listening. We're not going to do SSL here because we'd have to do a whole nother meetup to set that up. But this is the thing that we should have copied from the GitHub page for our package. All right, so I'm just going to copy that. Throw it here. Okay. So your image should look something like that, your image path. And then I'm going to give it a name for the container. Much like everything. Feel free to go crazy with your names if you want, but I would advise you to stick with just alphanumerics. Some of these things don't like any special characters or even dashes and things like that. So that's why we're sticking with that. Okay, and then the stuff down here at the bottom, right? Once we deploy this, how are we going to test it? How are we going to know? This is how we're going to get our fully qualified domain name. Right? We're telling this. You don't need to know this. This is actually a quite obscure thing, this AZ API provider. But that's because container apps are in preview and they're brand new. So this will be slightly different if you want to use this in the future. But anyway, telling it, give us our fully qualified domain name and then output that. Right? So that's what we're doing. I'm going to save this file over here, my terminal. Hit status. We see that's what's been modified. And I'm going to add it and commit it. All right, and then I'm going to push. Again, push into dev. Okay, so refresh this. And let's see here, 1 second. All right, so just like before, in order to get this triggered, we're going to make a pull request. dev in domain, right? And just do a sanity check, review your changes, make sure that you don't have any of these, giant username things laying around, because that'll break it, but everything else is okay. So again, I saved it, so there's some formatting changes, but looking at the hard changes here, everything looks good. I've given everything a name, and I've got my image right. So if yours looks like that, create a pull request. By the way, I didn't check it, but look, all checks have passed. Terraform plan. Really? Hey, look. We had an action that ran. We check that out. We see, much like before, there's 2 stages. Terraform plan ran. Let's check it out. Let's see. What does that look like? All right. See, initializing the backend. That's that backend provider. This is Terraform talking to the storage account in Azure that's going to hold all the state files. All right. Everyone's using the same one, but you're giving them unique names so there's no collisions. All right. Here's what it's going to make. It's going to make a container app. That's cool. That's what I wanted. It's going to make an app environment. That's needed. Log Analytics Workspace and a resource group. Plan 4 to add, 0 to change, 0 to destroy. The important thing about having that state that I mentioned is, if you're making modifications, right, some of these things will be, 1 to add, 3 to change, or 4 to destroy if you're having fun. But, okay, we got that there, and we made a pull request. We're interested in actually getting it deployed. Let's merge it. And let's go back to our actions. Just kind of wait here. Let me click that. And the apply here actually usually ends up taking, state lock. Hold on. Live troubleshooting. State lock is already used. Did anybody use the same name? Oh, never mind. I have path username. I missed something. Let's see here. Where did I miss that? And I might have caused you all to miss it. Ah, I did.
Indeed.
Sorry. All right. So if we all failed, it's all right. We'll show you how easy it is to fix that, right? And we had collisions. One of you might have succeeded, actually, because some might have worked. All right. Commit that. Tell it it's my first time. Always something shameful when you're presenting and do that. So git push, origin dev, and we're just going to repeat the steps. Yeah, failed. Although I didn't complete that pull. Well, I did complete it. Let's make a new one. Yep, that looks better. See here, the check. It's waiting. All right, so the plan run, that worked. Merge pull request. All right, here's the fun part. We're watching the apply. Oh, look at that. Deprecated field. I must have done this and destroyed mine. Everyone else's is probably working at this point, but I'm going to go just for fun. I'm going to change everything. Has anybody gotten there? Has anybody's apply completed? Or is in process for a lot of you?
Yeah, I'm done. My website has been up and running for a while.
Cool. So you saw that you had the domain name, the URL there was spit out to you at the bottom?
Yes, yes.
Awesome.
Just like the instructions said it would be.
Good, good.
The
I
difficulty
can't follow my own instructions.
The difficulty I had was I was not grabbing the proper version from the output of the container publish step. So I think that's why mine failed a couple of times. But when I fixed the version, it worked.
Okay. Yeah. Even if you've done this 100 times, it's never real until you've failed like 30 times. The mark of a professional is like 30 failed runs before you get one single one that works. I've never had anything work smoothly.
I only had 5, so that means I failed miserably.
Yeah, you got to bump those failures up. Try smashing your keyboard with your fist a couple of times before you commit.
On that note, I'm going to head out of here. Thanks very much, everyone.
Yeah, awesome. I'm just failing miserably. So I am a pro.
Mine's saying it can't. Following fields are either invalid or missing, and it's referencing the Docker poll and then that long line that we copied and pasted.
Says it's missing?
Yeah, following fields are either invalid or missing. I wonder
if the whole line, or are you copying just the yeah? Did you copy the whole line or just
that's it?
Yeah,
yep, I copied the Docker poll too. Yep, that's it.
That's all you want. Let me look.
By the way, I peeked into my email, and apparently every time you fail, it sends an email, just like other build engines.
Yep. I don't want to see my email after this. Let's see. Environment. Man, I have no idea. I'm gonna blame typing on this keyboard. Is there anybody that's that hasn't had a success now? besides me? But take that silence as a good thing.
Mine's going after I got rid of the Docker poll. Let's see where I get.
Cool. It's horribly exciting. You get the same thing you've seen three ways already, but you know, now it's running in the cloud. Now it's on someone else.
Slightly different.
Slightly different, yeah. Now it's done in a way that's marketable skill.
That's all it takes, right?
Yeah. I mean, you start learning bleeding edge knowledge and throw that out there. Boy, that looks good.
So is there any way I can peek at the Azure apps that get created as Azure resources that get created as part of this?
Normally, yes. Right now, no, simply because we need everyone's like Microsoft thing, and we'd have to add you to our AD provider. We did this. I was originally gonna do that, and we were going to look at that. But let me see if I can pull up someone's. We can look at yours if you want. I can do that because I'm clearly not going to get. I don't think I'm going to troubleshoot mine here. But let me get. Let's see here. Pull this down real quick.
Yep,
What is
Mine
your?
worked.
It worked?
Yep.
Awesome. Everybody but me. That's how it goes sometimes.
Indeed.
Who wanted to see their stuff? What'd you name your resource group?
I'm gonna drop off, but that was excellent. Thank you so much.
Yep. You're welcome. Thanks for hopping on.
Thank you. Have a great night.
You too. Let's see here.
So someone asked, where can I get the recording? I'll post the URL for that YouTube channel, but you should be able to get it on OneTug Orlando.net user group, OneTug's YouTube channel, and the link for that is shortly.
Yeah, I'm gonna pull up Carl's because there we go. I found one at least. So this is what it looks like, right? Out here, we've got a log analytics workspace in a resource group, container app environment, and our container app, right? Get your application URL, shows you your environment, shows you your log analytics workspace. And you get all sorts of other things, metrics, logs, things like that if you're interested. Revision management, we can look at our containers, right? And remember, we gave it a container name, so here's a container. You can configure things like health probes and environment variables and whatnot, and you see all those here. For those of you who have experience with like Azure App Services, some of this will look familiar because they're going to give you the same kind of tools, but this is all kind of designed for containers. And right here's Dapper. I'm actually not a .NET dev, so I haven't played with like things like this before, but I know Dapper's not a .NET solution, but it's I've been out of the dev game for a while. But yeah, I mean, so for those of you who are curious, since you have these repos, right? Azure does give you 30 days of basically free. You get $200 credit. You can deploy this stuff. But even after that time it goes, it's pretty dirt cheap, right? You can, I deployed a VM last night to just troubleshoot some DNS issues. It was up for maybe a half an hour and it cost me 4 cents. So It's cheap. Azure gets expensive if you leave something running and forget about it. So always clean up afterward. But if you do that, you know, you can very easily afford to play with all of these things and kind of use this repo as a way to start if it's new to you. And if it's not new to you, you know, cool. Talk to us. If anyone ever wants to chat, if you like to talk about this stuff, or you just want to learn more, and you know, I'm always interested in doing more of these types of things, and I love chatting about this stuff. You can find me on LinkedIn. That's probably a good way to reach me. And yeah, so I'm gonna stop sharing at least, because I don't need to dwell on my failure.
I have a couple of questions.
Yeah.
Question number one, the code spaces that you have.
Yep.
Where can I change, or can I change the subscription details to point to my Azure subscription so I can deploy from?
Oh, yes. That's really easy. In there, you just need to set those variables that are in the Terraform.
Right.
You just need to set those variables in your as a repository secret or as a organization secret if it's in an organization.
So this would be in the which Terraform? The main Terraform?
It is. Oh, it's actually it's not in the Terraform. It is in the Terraform Workflow.
Terraform Workflow. Okay, got it.
Yep. Those basically those values where it says secrets dot. That's just the syntax for how you reference that, but those would be where you. So you need to make those secrets with those names in. You can do that either in your repository settings, and they're in. You know, let me share my screen one more time. I'll point it out. Just a good thing. I'll keep sharing as long as people have questions. Let's see here. Right. So I'm in my repo. Repository settings, right? This is probably for, especially if you're using a free account. Although, you know, you can have organizations on free accounts too. So it's good to learn and play that way. Let's see here. Where secrets down here. Actions, because these are action secrets. Right here. So you would make a new repository secrets, right? These are the organizational secrets that you know, when you're in a repo that is in an org and you have access to secrets from the org, you'll see them. But if you wanted to take this code and go to your own Azure, you just need to take it, and as long as you populate these secrets here as repository secrets, name, value, you're done. And basically you get these when you create a service principal. So all of these values come back when you create a service principal.
Okay, so yeah, basically using a service principal similar to how you get service connections. Okay. So second question, can I clone, if I have Codespaces enabled on my account, can I clone this repo to my account and or fork this to my account, I guess, and then
it'll work as long as you have Codespaces, if you have Codespaces enabled. And for those of you who don't have Codespaces enabled, you can still use this just directly in VS Code. It's called remote containers. So if you just kind of if you Google dev container, you'll get all the documentation on that as well. But it's not quite as easy to start up as Codespaces because you're not just clicking a button. But if you've been using VS Code for a little while, it's easy enough. You issue a couple of commands and boom, you're running in a Docker container. So.
Okay, great. Can I quickly share my screen and then we can. So thanks, Daniel. I mean, this was great. You know, it's really easy to understand, but also doing a lot of different things, like using Azure Container Apps, using Codespaces. So this is a cool demo. I really liked it. And, what we are going to do is once this call ends at some point, I will upload this video to YouTube. It's you can get our YouTube at onetug.net/YouTube. So definitely go there, follow these instructions. And if you have any other links or something, Daniel, feel free to add them to this chat and I'll add them on the YouTube video too. That way people can use that. So other than that, I think, we're good. Unless anyone else has any questions, we can go ahead and wrap up this call.
Thank you very much for the presentation.